Good evening. Welcome to the Memoirs. This is where we obsess about Napoleon and ask a really intriguing question, which is certainly on my mind. Is it possible that the reincarnation of Napoleon is among us and that he has been located? This kind of found me, this idea. But I know Napoleon. That I do know. No matter how that sounds to people, if there's one thing I know, it's him. I know him very well, and he's a very specific person. He has a very extreme, eccentric, weird, passionate, exceptional genius, scheming, ruthless, ambitious, but not for money. And he is driven by passion and by a desire to do the right thing. And he is very spiritual. It's important to him to do what God wants him to do. He is a lot more godly than people think. That's these are the characteristics of Napoleon. And as I was saying yesterday, a defining trait of Napoleon is that he was this boy from Corsica who only had a basic officer's education in artillery. Artillery, you know? So this is not someone who would know how to found a bank, write a whole new system of law, negotiate treaties, uh, run rings around all the moneyed individuals of Europe on a war level. He could do anything. Not only that, but he practically wrote the newspaper. I mean, he did everything. And one of the mistakes he supposedly made was that he did everything. And when he needed help, other people couldn't step in because Napoleon had been doing everything. So, this is somebody who is not a normal person by any stretch of the imagination. So, how did he learn how to do these things after a couple of years in military school, learning artillery? He taught himself. He read a lot of books. He thought he was a genius. He did remember his past lives. He is a extremely innovative, transcendental thinker. He is not at all limited by other people's limitations in their thinking. He is going to look at everything his own way. And I beg you to listen to the memoirs we have done, understand who he was, forget Time Bandits or all these ridiculous cartoonish portrayals that have been done of him. Oh, wasn't that sort of an English movie? These things are all coming from the same place, okay? We are under a hidden rulership, which is not hidden at all. We have all of these shows being put on for us, so we won't see that we're living under a gangster's paradise regime, which really rose on what they did to Napoleon. And they never really lost control. And they are amazing at what they do. And what they do is brainwash us, psych us out, steal from us, get us fighting. They're just incredible. And what they do to us is so negative. It's so unbelievably negative. I just want to jump up and down and scream. Look who's doing it. Force the law. Please. We won't live. We can't live. They're not going to let us live. They have control of money. They're using money to end us and trick us and lie to us. Everybody knows I'm right. Maybe I'm not right about this Napoleon thing involving, I'm calling him Cohen, right? It's Elvis Costello. I think Elvis Costello is Napoleon. And I know that that is hard to accept at first, and I'm the first person to say that I agree with that. I actually thought of a very interesting parallel between, I call him Cohen, uh, just to call him something new. I really don't want to call him by his stage name. I don't feel it's his name. So anyway, that's my name for him. That's what I mean when I say Cohen. I mean Elvis Costello. So Cohen. It's not that I don't know what everybody calls him. Anyway, I had a very interesting thought about this. And once again, I hope I'm correct, but to my understanding, Cohen went to Catholic school until he was 11. And I guess he was put into secondary modern, which is the dumb kids track in England. Unbelievable. So keep in mind that he had his education deliberately sabotaged in England. Oh, where do all these awful people run their thing? It's England, it's Israel, it's United States, all of these countries where they have wonderful, wonderful control, particularly Israel. They can really have a lot of fun there. I don't think they have much supervision there. So I think that's a real fun place for them. But they're from England, okay? And they would just love to scapegoat anyone except the English aristocracy oligarchy situation, which does involve Germany. And it's very royal, very aristocratic. There's all kinds of things going on. But when you get to the tippity top, these are some very fair-skinned people. So when they try to get everybody racial about things, keep in mind who's sending out all of these racial messages. Very, very, very fair-skinned, blue-eyed people. Okay? It's unfortunately that's how it is. It is almost like a master race thing. And please understand these people at the mental level. It's they don't think like we do. They don't want to help us. They want they have very eccentric goals, and they are very dangerous to us. These goals, the rest of us who just want to live our lives and be happy. I can't. I can't participate in life because I don't want to take an injection that literally 99.999% killed my mother. So we're at a point where we can't get out of house arrest and participate in life unless we take so-called medicine that is uncontested murderous. How they took their strategies to that level and have maintained that a certain percentage of the time this thing does kill, uncontested. So that means that it's like a game of Russian roulette, that these very special people from the northern reaches of Europe, let's get real about things. Russian roulette to participate in life, uncontested. And they're going to go, "La, la, 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 la." That's the bottom line. Uncontested, murderous, side effects, some people, they'll never be the same again. And there are some people buying our governments, buying our media, schools, hospitals, etc., etc., who are standing behind this Russian roulette for the masses idea. This is unacceptable. Oh my goodness. I mean, like Van Morrison's next album, what's it going to take? What more do you need to realize that these people want us fighting and preferably dead? I can't be clear about that. Anyway, so it's part of why it is important if Napoleon is here, because we need to support him. If I can prove to you that this is Napoleon, and if I can prove to you that I am Hortense, which I am, how clear is this? No one's acting is that good. I'm her. I really am this Hortense person. And if so help me, Hortense and Napoleon are here, better support us, because we want to make the world a better place. And our dynasty has been repeatedly kicked out through by way of deception. This is a group that is very sneaky, very deceptive. And they always get control of money, education, media, all the things that are going to really control thinking. And then once they get control of thinking, um, they cause wars and they rig the game, and we're so far into that right now. Basically, they've been way too successful and they've had way too much of a free ride on us. So now it's at the point where they're demanding Russian roulette for the masses. That didn't happen overnight. That happened because we were sheep like, and our sheep like passivity taught them that we would just be so scared to be cast out of society that we would take Russian roulette medicine for not for ourselves, for others. Right? This injection isn't for you. It's some kind of civic some favor you're doing for the community, right? I always thought it was really funny when they framed it that way. Since I'm kind of a community artist, there was a lot of really interesting things like that, where they were kind of using my own spiel against me. And I was like, "Oh, you guys are gonna hijack my own thing and then use it against me. How clever." They're very clever. One thing they are is very clever. Anyway, so yesterday I began uh, Cohen's Memoirs, which is what I'm calling it, but I'm not hiding it. We are studying this. We want to understand, is this Napoleon? Because the other thing that I just said, Napoleon is a characteristic of Napoleon, is that he knew how to do things that he had no reason to know how to do. Case in point number one, to compare that to Cohen, is that he threw out a almost 700-page book, and no one was surprised in the least at that. And yet, he was on the dumb track. He wasn't in school that long. He's supposedly this huge cheater who drinks all the time, right? That's his whole persona. That's how we view him, as this degenerate rocker. Now, is that who he really is? That's certainly the image that has been presented to me over and over and over and over again. So if I wasn't sure to trust, it's not a good image that's out there of him, that he's this like hard living rock star. Well, then where did the 700-page book come from? See, look at the other hard living rock stars. Are they turning out 700-page books that are so beautifully written? I do not know the role that the editor played in this. I doubt it was much. This is clearly his book, his voice. I'm yelling. Yesterday, we opened Cohen's Memoirs with how Mick McManus, the TV wrestler, was brought up to him and his mother frequently. And turns out that Mick McManus was some kind of possible relation of his because of their last names being the same and their black hair that's plastered down. They both had plastered down black hair. And because he would be flying through the TV room doing scissor kicks, his mother gave him some crisps and lemonade, of all things, and sent him off to watch dad play his music at the Hammersmith Palais. And he goes down to every little seedy detail, which shows you that this is somebody who's very sentimental and very observant. This is somebody who thinks a lot and thinks about the past a lot. This is a very reflective person. And I felt just reading that reminded me so much of Napoleon, because Napoleon would tell you all these details about his childhood in Corsica and the games he played with girls and just every little detail. And it was like his happy place. So that reminded me a lot of him. And again, just that, where does this come from that he's an author? That's like Napoleon. Napoleon, like, where does this all come from? Napoleon had no background in law. How did he create the Code Civil? How did he do that? This is somebody who's very unusual. So I'm trying to draw a parallel. And, I don't have to say about Cohen that he's like the master of like every form of music. He's got to like Master Wagner next. It's the only one he hasn't is Wagner. But everything else, not really. But yeah, Bossa Nova and Wagner. Those are the two next ones. So that would be good. Combine them. So anyway, this is somebody who just played country and then they all just accept him as country. It's really funny. Anyway, so he can just do anything. Uh, just knocks out songs like it's nothing. So he blows everybody away, just like Napoleon did. So I'm trying to show you some really just obvious things. Forget the hard drinking rock star, whatever, and just look at the facts and get past the PR tricks, because I truly believe that I think I was given the wrong idea about him on purpose. And I think that affected my behavior and it subverted me. And I'm really upset about that. And why it's so horrible for me is because I really do think it's Napoleon. So I've been like hurtful to Napoleon. I really do believe that he's Napoleon. I believe this truly. And I'm going to do my best to prove it. And I've proven it to myself already. It hurts me so much that that this is my other half, and I do everything to vindicate Napoleon. And so help me if Napoleon has been here and PR tricks have again made me not see him correctly. And the whole point here is to really bring awareness to PR tricks and how all of these things on the internet are just publicists messing with you. They've decided that the masses should be, mixed race now. The financiers come up with all of these ideas. If the masses mix, there'll be less of a threat. Isn't that a great idea? We'll constantly push it on them, and then they'll do it. We're dealing with Bond villains. I'm trying not to insult them, but they're pushing agendas on you, and they've decided, and it's all so you'll be less of a threat. That's their entire focus in life. Is how can we neutralize the threat of the masses? We're terrified of them. They're terrified of us. This is why I've been blacklisted. And again, another thing that's very similar between Napoleon and Cohen, and this is a big one. Napoleon was extremely ruthless, extremely ambitious, but to do great things and to like leave his mark and to make history and to sweeping changes. Like he had this grandeur to him, but he didn't save money at all. He didn't care about money. He founded a bank and he didn't really hoard money. And he didn't even have money when he needed it, because that's how little he cared about money. And yet he did these great things. Okay, so speaking of very similar behavior between Napoleon and Cohen's, before I start reading a little excerpt, all right, this is what really touched me about him and made me realize that I didn't know anything about him. And that's why I am trying to help people see that I was very deceived about him. And I can't believe the wrong idea I got about him. It's shocking to me. So they're doing a real number on him. I know it. So I was blacklisted. So all the publicists pretty much work for this financier, let's call him. Okay, so it's all one thing, because that's the one with all the money. Regular people don't hire publicists. We can't afford it. The only people hiring publicists are these people that own the magic money machine. They can conjure up money out of the air and then they can just buy everything. So I was blacklisted by everybody and everything because they're scared of the masses. And, what are we going to do about the masses? We'll blacklist her. These people are not normal. And what could go wrong? We own everything. That's my voice for them. So they just said, let's just blacklist her. And it's like, I know you guys think you're so incredibly amazing, but it only exposed that everything is bought. If my project was popular, continues to be popular, it didn't stop being popular because the financiers blacklisted me. It just made it worse. It just created a worse problem because then everybody realized that the whole opposition is fake and the whole media is a conspiracy. Like it exposed everything, and they never really could vilify me the way they wanted. It's like their PR campaign against me has failed constantly, and at every turn. And one of the best ways that their PR campaign against me failed, and boy, how much money have they spent against me? That number is a high number. Anyway, so Cohen, this musician, this hard living, drinking. What does this man do? He lets everybody know that I was blacklisted. Okay, so all money comes from them. They own everything. They are everything. They make all the decisions. They buy all the publicists. They own all the media. They own all the governments. Every single thing in the world is theirs. That's why he deals with them, because they also own the music business, because they own everything. What does he do? He tells on them. Okay, so he has now, uh, let's just say, he has put himself into a very unpleasant situation in many, 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 many ways. Okay, so don't think he's going to do that and they're just going to be like, whatever. Not at all. They're going to punish him day and night and day and night and day and night and day and night for doing this. Guaranteed. Do you know these people? It's all they do. They're sadistic. They don't really have jobs. So all they can do is just sit around and think about how to destroy people's lives because that's their hobby. It's their controlling people is what they do. That's their field. So when someone like him starts to show that money isn't everything to him, because that's going to cost him money, and I wasn't helping him either. So anyway, he did something that wouldn't be the smartest decision financially. That's my point. That's someone like Napoleon. All of these other people just sit there in their palaces and let anything happen. That's the other hard drinking stars, you know, or the hard living stars. And there is a lot of drugs involved, and we all know that. And that's how people live like this. That's how they live with themselves. They're hooked on a lot of stuff. You know, it might be love addiction or all kinds of addictions. There are many types of addictions. There's spending addiction, there's travel addiction, there's all kinds of addictions. And these people get their addictions fed. And if they get them fed enough, they'll go along with truly anything. Oh, but not Cohen. He was the one who was totally different. And Van Morrison also. He also he did the right thing. I look, if you're in business with them, you're in business with them. There's nobody else. I don't have a music label. No one has a music label but them. So there's no way to be a big musician and not somehow work with them. And these people they're criminals. That's the situation. That's what I'm always talking about. It's these musicians are incredibly talented people who wanted to have careers. And then you know, I call him names for that. I get it. It's you can have a 9 to 5 job, or you can go do this and maybe do some good with it also. I get it. But people need to come clean. We need to move forward. We need to move into a new paradigm. We need to unite. We can't live like this anymore. Russian roulette. I have to take a Russian roulette to go. Like I said, just if I wanted to see him, I can't even see him now. I can't see him as an audience member. I can't see him as a person who admires him. I can't ever see him now. I just understand that. Let's just say this is Napoleon, and this is like Napoleon. I can't see him because he's been blacklisted and he has financial ruin being held over his head. And I think there's threats also. I believe that. I don't think it's just um, money. I think they do money and threats. And I really think the prince was a prince wanted out and they killed him. And it was to send a message, I think, to musicians like Cohen that we can kill you anytime we want. That's a message. And then we'll vilify you and we control the media. There's nothing you can do. I think that was 2016. And I am very blessed to, I guess, be a channel. And I am a channel. I know that. And Prince does talk to me. He really does. And he wants people to know what's going on. So I feel like it's kind of my job to speak for the musicians to a degree because they are very spiritual. And I love what they do. I love music. So Cohen did the right thing. That was not the right thing financially. And that's another great reason to give him credit and to respect him and understand he is doing his best, which he is. And he's in a very difficult situation. I don't know. I really don't know exactly what's happening, but I do know. What I do know is that he's having to deal with them, and they're not being a lot of fun to deal with. That I do know. I know. I don't know the particulars beyond that, but I know they're really freaking out, and they think they can do this pretend. I'm this invisibility trip they like to do with me. It's a lot harder to do that on him, and I don't think his numbers make sense anymore. I think they're doing all kinds of things. So be very aware that a lot of plotting is going on right now about him, and a lot of like, how do we neutralize him? Because he really is officially famous. And, he's giving every sign you can possibly imagine that he's like about to go Prince on us. And we all saw how they vilified Prince for that. And Prince was just trying to be a better person, a more truthful person. And they made it like it was all about money and he was greedy. And they did everything. And then look what they did to him at that Super Bowl. All that Super Bowl in Minnesota. So then they stomped on his grave, and it was so much. And they vilified him, and then they acted like he was a degenerate, which I don't think he was at all. I think he really was. I saw like a very clean living person towards the end of his life. So be aware that Prince. That was a message, and they're scared of the musicians flipping, and there's really nothing holding anyone to these contracts. This is not. This is not real law. If you have to make a deal with them to have a career in music, that's not a good contract. That's like a diabolical contract. I don't think that anybody should hold someone to that kind of like, oh, there's only one way to become a musician and you have to make this deal with us. That's not a real contract. And it's only being backed up by a force because there's an intimidation factor. That's what I'm saying about Prince. They're being intimidated, and there's a monopoly. Is that fair? And then when the financiers come up with their next way to kill the public, their next way to mess us up, all these musicians are like obligated to go along with it or else. That's the situation. And it breaks my heart because I've been doing pirate radio with Cohen since January, and we telepathically work on the songs that we put up. And I know, I can't believe it. I can't believe it, but it's been months. It's real. And he knows all the songs where the musicians are saying these things. I don't. He does. He is, I don't know how he's like this, but he digs those songs up all the time where these people are saying that they are trapped, they're not happy. It's every day I'm putting these songs up that the musicians feel like they're uh, in cages. All right, let's mention another reason on top of that why Cohen and Napoleon are extremely similar. This blew me away. This was from yesterday's passage. Okay, here it is. The idea that you wore a suit to go to work became so instilled in me that to this day the temperature must soar well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit before I will remove my jacket. Okay, you have to be me to know how Napoleon that is. Okay, in the memoirs, they say about Napoleon, he kept his uniform on perfect. Didn't even unbutton it in the heat of Egypt. You just sweating that thing. Okay. And Napoleon was always with his suits and his uniforms. He was a uniform person. And I know Cohen's a uniform person too. So, see? That's how it is. There's two mini arrows pointing in the same direction. So let's have another look at this book. A couple more pages. Hope I didn't ramble too much. Let's read some more Cohen's memoirs and see if he continues to be extremely similar to Napoleon. One evening in 1980, when I'd already had my own brief moment of pop infamy. I'm going to read that. One evening in 1980, when I'd already had my own brief moment of pop infamy, my dad and I were talking with Joe Loss's former singing star Rose Brennan and dancer Lionel Blair in an area curtained off from a hotel ballroom in Lancaster Gate. On the television monitor, I could see Mr. Loss conducting his band in a style that was familiar from my childhood. He still shot the point of his baton to the floor and then to the ceiling with one sharp flick of the wrist. With his little finger daintily extended, he still bounced vigorously up onto the balls of his feet and then back down to his heels, a strand or two of hair breaking free. Although his once pomaded black had now turned silver, a production assistant tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Remember when Eamon introduces you, just say what we've agreed, or you'll throw him off completely." Eamon was the former sports commentator, Eamon Andrews. He was a man with an impressive build of a boxer who'd had a career on Irish radio before making some of his first appearances in England with the Joe Loss Orchestra, and then going on to be the presenter of several long-running television shows. He was most famously the host of This Is Your Life, a show that had begun in the late 50s and was now entering its second decade on the air since the revival in 1969. For those of you who don't recall the show, Eamon would stalk up to some prearranged ambush location, clutching a big red book stamped with the show's title, and surprise his quarry with the dramatic announcement that they had to cancel whatever was planned for the evening because tonight, this is your life. The victim was then usually whisked in a fast car to a television studio where their family and friends would arrive through an archway, preceded by a fanfare and an introduction that went something like this. He was the choir boy who sat next to you in chapel and put live frogs down your cassock. You haven't seen him since 1932, but he's here tonight. Cue laughter and tears and a gentle, somewhat selective telling of a life story. On this occasion, the trap was ready set as Joe Loss was playing a dinner dance in honor of his 50th anniversary in show business. The comedian Spike Milligan entered the green room with a few minutes to spare. I hadn't realized he had any connection to Joe Loss, as his radio fame from his days on The Goon Show and his books Cocoon and Adolf Hitler, my part in his downfall, seemed to come from different universe. But it turned out he'd made some of his earliest appearances with the band during summer engagements in towns like Bridlington. We all huddled around the television set to witness the big moment of surprise. Eamon Andrews slipped from the shadows as the applause from the previous number tapered off. A few giggles and gasps almost gave the game away. The penny would usually drop with "This is your life, victims." The moment they saw Eamon coming their way, some would back away in mock alarm, others laugh hysterically or shed some tears. A few even fled the scene completely and refused to take part, which is perhaps why the show was no longer broadcast live. In a split second before Eamon tapped Joe on the shoulder, a piercing goon voice called out, £1,000 for anyone who warns that man. If this was audible to the diners beyond the curtain, it was quickly swallowed by applause and cheering. The details of the Joe Loss story told that night had been fairly sketchy to me until then. Eamon recounted how Joe had studied the violin and in the early 30s began leading a small group at the Kit Kat Club called the Harlem Band, a strange name for a group fronted by a man born to Russian immigrants in Spitalfields. He'd given the wartime heroine Vera Lynn her first radio broadcast in 1935, had played at Princess Margaret's wedding, and then went on to provide the music for several generations of lovers and dancers at the Hammersmith Ballet, the Lyceum, and Emperor Ballrooms, and on the radio. Rose Brennan, my dad, had probably been his best known singers, so it made sense for them to be surprise guests at the party. They were reunited with Larry Gredden, who still sang with the band. He was a strapping man with a slightly stiff romantic charm and wavy blonde hair that may not have been his own. He and my dad had been good foils in the comedy numbers, not least of all because of all the difference in their height. I have a publicity photograph of them dressed in striped vaudeville blazers and clutching straw boaters with matching hatbands while earnestly gazing at their boss, who was posed imparting some important detail about the performance of some long forgotten novelty song while holding a pencil. My dad was announced to the stage first, where he told some silly tale from his time with the orchestra. Then it was my turn to enter. Eamon adopted his familiar style of setup, which I must now paraphrase. You may remember him as that young man who sat up in the balcony of the Hammersmith Ballet. Now he's the pop star responsible for the hit record, Oliver's Army. You know him as Declan, son of Ross McManus, and he's here tonight. Come in, Elvis Costello. It was as bizarre an entrance as I've ever had to make. If I'd had to traipse down one of the gold painted staircases that framed the Hammersmith Ballet bandstand, I could not have felt more peculiar. During my dad's time with the band, Joe Loss had never spoken to me. As if I were a child, he always addressed me as a young man, seeming kind, engaged in anything I said in response to his questions. Now he was just as gracious and composed upon meeting me for the first time as an adult. I can't recall exactly what story I told. Probably the one you've just read about me visiting the Hammersmith Palais matinees. He seemed to take pride in my success, as if he had suspected it would happen all along. It was all over in a flash, just like life itself. Morbid, Napoleon. Gloomy, Napoleon. Nostalgia, Napoleon. Great writer, Napoleon. It's there. You gotta look for it. Tense. Sentimental. So sentimental. Anyway, I just want people to understand each other. Anyway, if this is Napoleon, we gotta get behind him. Because he wants what's best for us. And this is a huge opportunity for us. And we have to defend ourselves. They're very aggressive with us, you know? We have the right to defend ourselves. We have the right to not die when they tell us to, okay? Anyway, thank you so much for listening to me this long. I appreciate it. Have a nice evening.